what were some of your thoughts about Wale's new album, man?
It was a dope project, Mike. It was really good. I thought it was one of his better albums. I immediately thought to myself, this might be his second best album,
Hmm.
like from beginning to end, in my opinion, because it's a pretty consistent project, wouldn't you say?
I agree. I really enjoyed it, to be perfectly honest. And if anybody's watching the show, oh my God, my phone is going off. Hold on 1 second. I need to put this thing on Do Not Disturb, especially since we're doing the show a little bit earlier, so you get more calls now. But anyway,
Yeah, you're
as a
all good.
person that is really not a super Wale fan like that, man, I
Hmm.
really, really enjoyed it. And I think I told you offline, I went into it with the mindset that, like, yo, we're going to end up comparing this to what Meek just put out because I think Meek has a real strong base. And he normally gives his people what they want. And same thing with Wale. And I think even when we had that conversation about Meek and where he fits in this generation, Wale's name came up a few times. So I went into it thinking that, okay, we're going to be comparing this to, Expensive Pain. And then after listening to it, I'm like, first of all, this is way better than Expensive Pain. And second of all, this is, to me, this is better than Drake's album, Certified Lover Boy. And I think he hit a lot of those marks that we were expecting Drake to hit at this point in his career, at his age, that Drake just didn't hit. And I say that because Wale hit that maturity line where he was able to make some bangers, he was able to make some introspective things, and he was able to make some relatable music that fit the age bracket. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought the production choice was awesome. I thought that he was on point as an MC. He didn't get carried by any of his features. I think he commanded in every moment of the album, and it's just a really good listen.
I agree with most of what you said.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get into some of the nuances of what you said, though.
Go
He
for it. While
sounds
I put my
super
phone on Do
comfortable.
Not Disturb real quick. Hold on. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. He sounds comfortable, and he's super comfortable on this album. And you're right, he sounds very sharp and comfortable on these tracks as an MC.
Mm-hmm.
But Mike, the first thing I notice is that these tracks, to me, they sound like some DC type of vibe
I like
to me.
that. I noticed
The
that too.
beat,
Yeah.
the drums, the acoustic sound of it, that's that DC. So he's kind of like on his like go-go gadget flow, like literally, as in like go-go music flow, as
Right.
in
I see
like
what you did there.
right, as in like he's pulling from that right. He's pulling from that go-go inspired musicality in terms of the drums and the snares and the acoustic sound of it. And he's
Hmm.
comfortable with it, Mike, because he's from DC, so he's raised on it. So
I
he's
love it.
really in pocket. No, I love it because it's like this is one of those things that it's like it makes you wonder why he hasn't done more of this on his albums before.
I I was thinking the same thing. I was listening to the first two tracks. Let me go to the track list. Shout out to everybody in the room. I don't know
Like
if
the
y'all have
first two
heard the
tracks, like
yeah.
yeah,
It pulls you in. I don't know if y'all have heard the
yeah,
Wale
put you in. You
album
hear it and
yet,
you feel it on the first couple.
but we want to know, like, what's your favorite song on there. But yeah, as soon as New Balances and I love Name Ring Bell. I really like that. You know what I'm saying? And
That's
that
when
was
I
the
was.
one that gave me the DC feel. I don't
Yep.
know. Did you ever listen to Phil Day?
What?
Phil Day out of DC.
It's not ringing. It's
I'm
not
gonna
ringing a
send you
bell.
some. I don't think you have. I'm gonna send you some of Phil Day's music. He came out around the time that Wale came out, but he never really
Yeah.
broke because I don't think he ever signed a major deal. I could be wrong, but so he always kept his sound very DC, and I love his records. You know what I'm saying? And Wale was in some of those early Phil Day videos. I'm sure they're still cool and all that, but it made me feel like that. And yeah,
Yeah.
Damian Frederick says Name Ring Bell is my favorite. I feel you, man.
Name
Um,
ring bells, dope.
yeah, so as soon as the album opens up, honestly, I feel like the first six songs is where I like how Wale did this. The first six songs, I feels like he kind of just came with his thing, and then he started trickling in the features. Even though J. Cole is on the third song, but again, we've heard that song, and that song's I think it's the single, right? It's either that or the record
Mhm.
with Chris Brown. But yeah, I love how he even formatted this and put this together. It's a well put together project. Oh yeah, Gray in here is mentioning Odyssey. Perfect. I love Odyssey too. Again, DC got dope
I'm familiar with
MCs.
Odyssey, yeah.
Some people would say that J. Cole kind of took a little bit of Odyssey steam and Odyssey style, but that is for the hip hop purists to sit there and debate that. But yeah, Odyssey's a dope artist, very consistent, and I really felt a lot of that DC vibe in this album. I loved it.
Hmm. No, it was good for him because it works for him because he sounds comfortable. And so
He does.
like the chemistry and what you're comfortable doing, like you don't want to get wrapped too much into doing too much of the same thing that people get tired of it. But this was a nice transition, a welcome transition, and something that maybe should have been done sooner in terms of like doing tracks like this more often. Mike, I'm with you in terms of how he placed this album. He established himself and his presence and the vibe and the tone of the album.
Mm-hmm.
And then he opened the doors and let everybody in, which I think was a wise decision. Of the first 6 songs, the only one that I'm really not a fan of, which is Caramel, and that's just because I feel like he really didn't try on that record.
I like Caramel. I think the song that I wasn't a fan of might have been. I think I wrote it down. It was towards the end. I was it Jump In? It's
It
one
might
of
have been Jump In.
Yeah, I believe it was Jump In. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I could pretty much play this thing through. But I understand what you're saying. Like, lyrically, he didn't really try. But I like the production on Caramel like that. And I think, again, that was Wale jumping into that spoken word pocket that, I think that this is the thing. And not to ramble on, I think that Wale has a skill set that a lot of his peers don't have. And I think he's out here comparing himself to the wrong people. I know he always wants to compare himself to the J. Cole and Kendrick, but he does things that they don't do, and obviously they do things that he doesn't do. But I think what he had an opportunity to do when he came in the door was really to hammer down that DC sound that DC hip hop has, and they got a scene, they got a sound, and he could have
Mm-hmm.
owned that. But I think for the most part of his career, a latter part of his career, he's been searching for an identity, and it feels like this feels like the identity that he could have been doing all along.
So, Mike, you're taking a lot of my notes that I wanted to bring up. I literally have written down. I said, "Who is Wale?"
Mm.
Because when I put and right next to that, Mike, I have LL because I thought
Okay.
of Wale today the same way, kind of that I might look at a LL. Well, is Wale is lyrically sharp, has a Kendrick Lamar or a J. Cole? Well, no. The same way LL wasn't as lyrically sharp as a Rakim or a KRS-One or a Cool G Rap, but
Huh.
more versatile and able to make the type of records that you just don't hear those guys do. And here's what I really thought about. You want to know what the thing is with L that L had over those guys too? L was more fun than those guys, the same way Wale's more fun than these guys. You
That's
know?
interesting. That's interesting.
So I put Nelly and Ja Rule there too, Mike, because when I thought about who is Wale, that might be more somewhere where he fits closer to the LL side because of the quality of his spit game,
Mm-hmm.
or even a Ja Rule, because Ja Rule used to be able, like before Ja Rule became the hit maker, Ja Rule would spit, and
Right.
still did from time to time. But I thought of LL, Nelly, and Ja Rule. It's like, man, that might be more of Wale's lane and how he is going to be remembered and maybe should be remembered because he can do that.
I
And
think you're
because he did it well on
comparing.
this album for the most part,
I
with the exception of a few songs, in my opinion.
I believe you're comparing him to some of those which I totally don't disagree with because of their circumstance, right, and the way where they fit at amongst their peers. Who would you actually
Lyrically.
compare Wale to lyrically as an MC? Like, let's just say Wale's coming in the door and he spits, you know what I'm saying? He spits a New Balance or a name ring bell. Who would you sit there and say, you know what? I got this new artist. He reminds me of yada yada. Is there anybody to compare to him to like that?
That's part of the reasons why it's kind of hard to qualify him. He
Right.
is kind of a one-on-one in the sense that it's like he doesn't fall off of anybody's tree per se, Mike.
Right.
you can't really trace what he does and how he does it to somebody and say, oh, well, Wale was inspired by that guy or you really can't say that with Wale, so it changes things.
I think that's why he feels so isolated among his peers. And, it's interesting you bring up LL Cool J because, again, like at the top of the show, I was referencing what KRS-One said at the Versus, where he called out Rakim, he called out Cool G Rap, he called out, himself being in that discussion. He called out Slick Rick and then said, now the only person left is Kane, and here we are. And he left LL out of that conversation. I think Wale is one of those among his peers that feels like he's often left out of the Kendrick Cole and Drake conversation. And I've never heard Wale say this, but based on Wale's output, his ability, I'm pretty sure he feels like he's one-on-one nicer than Drake. I'm pretty sure. He's made those comments in the past that the mulatto MCs get, get elevated or whatever. I don't think he was talking about J. Cole in that sense. I think that he does feel like image wise and for other reasons, he probably takes a backseat to Drake, and he probably feels like he's a nicer MC than Drake and doesn't get recognized for it. Do you think that Wale is a better MC than Drake?
If we're just talking like on a bar for bar level, I would have to say yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Like if I needed somebody to make me a song, I would take Drake. But if I needed just 16, or if I was going into a cipher, I would take Wale over Drake.
Well, what I will say about Wale in 2021, he's made a better album than Drake made. I think
that's right.
Yeah.
So, Mike, I actually want to go to the comments that I have above "Who is Wale?" because one of my sentiments about this album is I was like, hey, there's no real there's no real rap shit on here. Like that rap shit. Like Kendrick on Feel and on Element on Damn is on like some rap shit.
Well, I'm glad he didn't force it though. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it made me ask the question of who is Wale, because it's like I think he actually made an intelligent choice. I think he probably come to grips with the fact that he's never going to be categorized and recognized as the caliber of MC that Kendrick and that Cole are lyrically. Like he's not put in that stratosphere. Mike, and this is why I brought up Ja Rule, kind of how like Ja Rule wasn't considered to be in that stratosphere with DMX and Jay-Z.
Right.
And so he's kind of doing what Ja did, and he's pivoting a little bit because he's doing something. He's like, well, those other guys could make a record like this from time to time, but I can make these records.
And you got to double down on it. And Ja Rule made the right decision.
And so did Wale. He just really doubled down on what's going to work for him, because this album just worked for him. The only tracks on here that I'm really not a fan of, Mike, are Jump In, Angles, and Caramel. Like Angles, the rest of the album is pretty solid to me.
Yeah. I mean, I like Angles. Again, I get it. I understand what it's for.
I know what it's for, but how about this? And so these are my comments after that, is that if he's going to play that LL, Nelly, Ja Rule card, he's going to have to do it a little bit bigger and better next time in terms of the hit making, but I like where he's going.
I wasn't a fan of him, I guess, redoing Vibrant Thing to an extent.
Me either. You want to talk about it?
I want to talk about it. It's not a bad song at all. But again, I think that me as someone who is a huge Q-Tip fan, and I loved Vibrant Thing. I think Vibrant Thing did so much for the game. It really gave us the video vixen in that era, in my belief. And
I agree.
I think that it was an underappreciated record in hip-hop history because of the fact that, he was coming from Tribe. And with Q-Tip going solo, you're expecting a certain Tribe-esque thing going on, not even thinking that Bonita Applebum was really their biggest song. So maybe that was, Q-Tip's mindset. And I love Amplified. I think we talked about this a couple shows ago. Sounds like Q-Tip and Dilla were having a really good time when they were making it. And I've heard they were. But I wasn't a big fan at first of, Wale choosing this to redo and using that for the J. Cole feature. But listening to it in the scheme of the album, I liked it. I liked the choice of doing that. I liked the choice of actually getting J. Cole on some fun shit. I like the, what I'm saying, the choice of these two collaborating on an album like this on some hip hop shit, but this is for the ladies. I'm cool with that. I liked it.
So let's unpack a couple things, and I'm gonna finish off some of your history lesson with Vibrant thing.
Hmm.
People almost excoriated Q-Tip for making that song because it was nothing like anything that you had really heard, especially sonically, coming from Tribe's core member. I can remember there
Yeah.
were a lot of heads like that were around me at the time that were super disappointed in that record. Mike, I'm
Right.
like
I
you.
remember that.
I Mike, I always enjoyed that record. I always loved that record. And I used to tell people, it's like, no, let Q-Tip have some fun.
We were younger though, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. No,
Tribe
no,
was
no. We were
slightly
younger, Mike.
before
No,
us.
Mike.
So yeah.
I was pretty strict and I was ahead. But that record, how about this, Mike? When I be saying I don't like that happy shit, what I really be saying is like, if you're gonna do it well. That was
Hmm.
one of the first times that I had heard it done well. Like he sounded great on that record. I do think it's the creation of the video vixen, like the chick with the green eyes, Mike. Like she had everybody like, you
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? And so it was actually impactful, low key in a lot of ways.
I
That
feel like that was
Violator.
Gloria Velez's first real standout, I guess, how do I say it, showcase in a music video, I think.
She wasn't even the highlight of the
No,
video,
she
but
wasn't, but she was in there.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, she was in there, but she wasn't even the highlight of the video.
yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's the start of the Video Vixen, really dope record. It's actually, beat wise, it's actually like better now when you listen to it than people gave credit for then.
Hmm.
And in a lot of ways, it's a hip hop classic. And it's like, and I hate to say this, it's like that was the opportunity for them to be on some rap shit, but I was still pleased with the results because Cole really showed out on the
Hmm.
record,
He did.
and it made me think he need to do some more happy shit.
See, you know what? That's funny you say that.
How about
I was,
that?
I was gonna say if this was Cole's record instead of Wale's record, I think it would have been a standout on Cole's album, in my opinion,
Yeah.
single wise.
See, but that's the problem though.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get this record on Cole's album. You're gonna get it on Wale's album, and it's almost like Wale knows it now, and so he's calling in Cole to do that because it's not gonna be on Cole's album,
Let
Mike.
me ask you something, man. I ain't even
Maybe it
have
needs to
this in
be.
my notes. Do you think Wale makes better radio records than J. Cole does?
I think Lotus Flower Bomb in that way are better singles probably than any one single J. Cole has released that I can think of off the top of my head. Because I like that better than Crooked Smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your favorite J. Cole radio record? And people in the chat can join in too. Like, what is J. Cole's best radio record?
Best? I love Nobody's Perfect with Missy, Mike, me personally.
Okay. I'm trying to think.
On a personal level, I like Nobody's Perfect.
On my end, let me think. I mean, off the top of my head, I mean, does Wet Dreams count?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, looking
I don't
back
love
at
that
it,
record. I don't love that record the way everybody else does, but
DeCarlo says yes, he does. DJ Bruce Almighty said yes, he makes better singles. That's interesting. That's interesting that people
no, Mike.
feel
I mean,
like
Mike,
Wale
it's
make,
been true. No,
yeah.
it's been true. That's why I keep going to like the LL. That's why it's like, no, no, no. LL kind of created that lane because it's like you can't tell me. Okay, so here's the thing, Mike. People talk about LL
Hmm.
and how great he is, like lyrically. People acting like L didn't switch it up.
Oh, he
Mike, you
switched
remember
it
the
up.
album? What is it? Walking with a Panther.
Listen.
That's the
I was,
switch up, Mike.
listen.
That's when he
I was,
transitioned from. And Mike, that's right around the time that guess who was coming out? Rakim,
I was
KRS
thinking of
One,
listening
Big
to
Daddy
Walking with the
Kane,
Panther
Cool D
today.
Rap.
I was listening to
Yeah,
thinking. I was thinking about listening to that album today. Excuse me, because
I'm that type of guy. Can I interest you? And I'm that type of guy,
so
Mike.
many
Because
people in our
you
chat
can't
were
interest me in
mentioning
that.
Walking with the Panther today, and I was like,
Why?
man, maybe I need to go back and listen to that.
No, you don't.
DeCarlo says Power Trip, and I might be with you on that. I
Ooh,
think I might
ooh,
go with
ooh.
Power
You want to
Trip.
know what? I'll give you Power Trip over Nobody's Perfect. Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, no, everybody in the chat was talking about Walking with the Panther, Walking with the Panther. You must have
This shit
never
not
heard
hot.
Walking with the Panther.
This shit not hot.
I didn't think so either.
That
And I
shit
love
not hot.
LL, man. I mean, from end to end. And again,
Mike,
we're not going to get off
no.
subject here, but we're talking about Paid in Full. We're talking about Criminal
Mike, I remember
Minded.
my big cousins complaining about walking like a panther when Big Cuz, who's 8 years older than me, bought the tape. Like
Well, I mean, let's go chronologically with LL then. Like, what was he? Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. What album was he talking about?
he talking about walking like a panther,
That's what
Mike.
I
Because how
thought.
about this? Going
Yeah,
back to Cali, he caught flack for making "Going Back to Cali."
I
I'm
know.
going back to Cali, styling, profiling.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Mike
religion is history.
Rakim's over here doing "I Ain't No Joke," and Karis one's doing "My Philosophy,"
Yeah,
and he's
man.
doing "Going Back to Cali."
I'm not trying to be funny, and I think LL's one of the greats. But you're
I
right.
am.
To put it into perspective, when you got My Philosophy being put out there, you got Raw out there, you got Follow the Leader and Microphone Fiend out there, and then you got Going Back to Cali. Yeah, that's why you weren't mentioning that.
Mike, and "Going Back to Cali" was the second single, if I'm not mistaken. "I'm That Type of Guy" was the first single, and that's even softer than "I'm Going Back to Cali."
Yeah,
It's real
yeah.
soft.
No.
It's real
That is
soft.
very, very legit, man. Like I said, when you
Little
got Ain't No
video, he's
Half.
all in the black stretch pants, acting like a thief in the
Yeah.
night or
Oh, I
something.
remember. I remember. I
Yeah. So
remember.
like, let's not get brand new.
No, I feel you. It's revisionist history, is what it is. Miss Mo
No,
says
it's also
Q-Tip.
an accurate account of history. He switched his whole style up.
Miss Mo says Q-Tip is a goat. Period. I totally agree with you. Once again, man, my favorite overall hip hop artist. We talk about producer, DJ, MC, just overall eclectic creative in hip hop. Ain't
No,
nobody matching Q-Tip.
I mean,
Didn't he create the Tribe Called Quest logo, the first one?
yes, that's correct. And Mike, I will tell you this though, Mike. I mean, especially as far as like coming out of New York and the East Coast is concerned. Oh, I mean, no, in hip hop, Mike, you're gonna be hard pressed to find a guy who had their hands in some sort of level on the making of four classics, the caliber of the Low End Theory, Midnight Marauders, Illmatic, and the Infamous. Like he had a hand in all of those
So you
projects.
just
Like
gonna skip
I mean,
over People's Instinctive, but okay, I got you.
no, Mike. Even People's Instinctive, if we want to say that it's a classic, it's not a classic to the level of those four records, though, is it?
I guess I'm with you. I mean, but to me, it's a
Oh, we're
classic.
not
It's
doing
the
this
first
today.
hip hop album that we get 5 mics. We're not gonna do that today. We're talking about
Golf
Wale.
claps, golf claps.
But what I will say, when it comes to Q-Tip and his position in Tribe, I feel like it's a catch-22, right? It's a double-edged sword when you have somebody who does so many things for that already talented collective. You become, I don't want to say a dictator, but you become somebody that, depending on what your cast is like, kind of like Michael Jordan, right? Where
There we go. Yep.
some people would say that Michael Jordan was bullying his teammates, but I mean, he was just doing so much. He expected so much, and sometimes you're going to get pushback from that. I mean, I feel like, rest in peace, him and Tribe, I mean, not him and Tribe, him and Fife were having those kind of riffs because, again, they had known each other since they were children. And then when it gets to a point where you feel like you could tell me what to do and where you don't want me living because you want everybody in New York while we're recording and I want to live in Atlanta, you cause rifts in the group in that way. And those are just natural rifts. I mean, to the point where Fife even was, do you remember he was dissing Q-Tip for Vibrant Thing, the song that we were just talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
You know,
it happens.
grown men. It's gonna be some tension.
What I love about them, though, was even though those things were going on, they still found ways to tour together. They still found ways to record together. Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't easy, but, they put a lot of that aside for their fans and for the culture, and that's why they're one of the greatest, man. I mean, shoot, Dre and Big Boy are super cool, and we still ain't got no music from them, so.
Top 5 rap group, Tribe Called Quest.
Oh, most definitely. Outkast too,
Yeah, I mean, of course. Yeah. I mean, both of them. We ain't talking about Cass right now, though.
Yeah, but
But no,
definitely, man.
but back to this Wale, though. So I feel like this is Wale's lane. He's
Mm-hmm.
comfortable right here, and I think what he needs to kind of do is kind of what Nas just did on King's Disease, which is like double down and come back with this again next year done better because I think that he can do that. Like I like what I heard.
It's interesting you say Nas. Not to interrupt you, but I
I'm
think
just talking about in terms of emotion.
no,
I'm
I
talking about the
understand
emotion.
and I agree.
Yeah.
I think that the type of music that Wale put forth on this album, he can make for years and years and years, regardless
Yeah.
of what's going on in the game.
Yeah.
You can make the type of album that Wale just made well in your 40s.
You want to know who said he was going to be around for a long time? When Jay was on the Breakfast Club, he brought up Wale and said Wale is going to be here for a long time. And this album is some proof to that. Because you're right, Mike. Name ring bell. Oh, it's like they playing that literally right now in DC while we talking about this in the streets.
Hmm.
Like they literally playing that right now. They playing this album right now up there. Yeah.
This is the thing, man. Like, and one of the things that he has going for him that Drake has, and not a lot of MCs really have going for them. He has a whole city behind him. Like he is the guy for
It's the
his city.
flag.
Yeah. And
Yeah, he the
so
flag.
and yeah, and as long as he's able to stay consistent and really, find himself and represent that city on a mainstream level, he's gonna have that support at least. You know what I'm saying? Even if the rest of the country doesn't fuck with what Wale's doing, as long as he keeps it DC, DC's gonna fuck with him
Well, this is what I mean about how they're
in the
okay.
surrounding area.
So let's talk about like on a small level, like the psychology of this. Well, this album is slapping in a way that his albums haven't been slapping in a minute. Like
Hmm.
it's been at least 6 or 7 years that I can just think of off the top of my head that he's made an album of this quality. Because I think this album is better than when I heard this album, I was like, well, this is better than The Gifted. And The Gifted is his second or third best album, depending on how you feel about his first album before Ambition. Ambition's his best album. This isn't better than Ambition.
Okay. I want to
Because
listen
he's
to
not,
him side by side.
because on Ambition, he's still like on his rap shit too, but he's making the hits too. Like when he's talking like on Legend, I'm sort of like Socrates in a Prada tee.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? There's not that, like that guy's not on this album,
He's
but
got
this
some
guy's,
wordplay on here that's pretty
no, no,
strong.
no, no, no. The
Yeah.
Felicia Rashad, Bill Cosby thing, like that was hilarious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's slick with it still like that. It's not his lyrically as strong as Ambition, and the hit records on Ambition are better.
I
That's
would
what
say
I'm
the hit
saying. Like
records
that
are
way and
probably
Lotus
the
Flower
divide.
Bomb are better hit records, and lyrically he's
Yeah.
better. Production, we could call it a wash or even give this project the nod, but that's still his best album. But this is like a day where DC can like raise their flag up and be like, look at what our boy did. You feel what I'm saying? That's different.
Yeah.
That's different than like holding the city down. The city been holding them down through all of this. This is one of the day the city can put the flag up and be like, yeah,
No, you're right. Ted
yeah.
CNN says his best album is the album about nothing. That was dope too.
What the Seinfeld album? See, that's what I mean. It's like when you say that, it's like, are you talking from like a conceptual and lyrical level? Because
Mhm.
it's like possibly, but like overall, like no, just like one of his 5 best albums.
I like identity, man. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're able to identify who you are and you go out there and double down on that, that's what I like to see
So
in an
let's so,
artist.
so let's
Yeah.
talk about the album All About Nothing. This is right around the time where he's probably literally Mike trying to figure out the identity because he's realizing that well, he's not Drake, but he's not Cole or Kendrick. Where is he? But you want to know what he is, and I want to go to some notes that I had about this. He's a more mature man on this album,
Hmm.
and he's the mature man that's having fun still, and that you can still tell is him, which is actually kind of what we were knocking Drake and Meek for. It's like, well, I know that's you, but why haven't you matured a little bit? Wale's still having fun on this album and doing his thing, but the
Exactly.
misogynistic rhetoric is different and is toned down. You want to know why? Because he's older and more mature. It's reflecting in how he's creating the records in terms of the verbiage he's using, even when he's having fun. And so you
You're
hear the
right.
maturity in that without him having to change his subject matter. How about that?
Everything we asked for from Meek and Drake, or that we didn't get
Wale
this
just
year,
gave us.
yeah,
Yep.
Wale just gave us, and he
Wale
gave
just
it
gave us
in a
what we
very
were looking
natural
for.
form.
Yep. Organically. Because he went to that DC pocket.
What are you rating this album out of 5? Because people are talking this storytelling topic now. So, what are you rating
Yeah.
this out of 5?
It's definitely a 4 to me. I don't know if I want to rate it higher yet. I want to hear it again from beginning to end because I've heard it once, and then I just picked up a couple of tracks again to make sure that I was really enjoying what I was hearing.
I was leaning on a 4.25. And I want to listen to it again.
Mike, I feel like I'm going to end up giving it that rating. That's why it's like it's definitely a 4. But I'm leaning with you on that. But
Yeah.
I felt like Caramel was uninspired. I felt like the joint with Chris Brown he made because he had to make.
It's a
And
good
also
song though,
Mike,
and I hear it on the
and
radio a
also
lot. Yeah.
and also Mike too. It makes me feel like that track with Gibbs, they got left off.
I was gonna say something
Is on
about
some
that
rap
too.
shit. Mike is on some rap shit because Gibbs be on some rap shit. This album's not on some rap shit.
Yeah.
Well, bonus track that and give us some rap shit because
I'm
the
sure there's
one
gonna be a
drawback,
deluxe, like Gibbs said.
Mike, the one, yeah, Gibbs was saying, I hope I make the deluxe because the one drawback I give you this album, there is a core base of him that does want to hear him on that rap shit. You know,
I
like when I
listen.
play Ambition, I want to hear Legendary and I want to hear That Way.
But this
Like
is the
because I
thing
know he can
too.
do both.
And when Gibbs put that out there, the run that Gibbs is on right now, I think he's at the top of his career, right? So I'm pretty sure the song is quality. And the fact that he made the decision to leave that off lets you know
That
how
was a
focused.
stylistic choice.
Yeah, lets you know
That
how focused he is on the album and not other
right.
things. And I
Well, that's
respect that. That probably
that's a,
wasn't an easy,
that's an
removal.
album stylistic choice, probably not
Hmm.
a song being good enough to make the record
Exactly.
choice. Some songs you do with artists, and it's like, no, I know that's him and I know that's me, but that record's just not strong enough. I don't think that was probably the case. Because when I listened to this album, I'm like, well, stylistically, that doesn't fit. Because when I looked at the track list and I'm like, well, if there's gonna be some rap shit on here, it's gonna be with J. Cole. But then I saw Poke It Out and I'm like, well, that's not on some rap shit. And then I'm like, Light Years with Rick Ross. I'm like, well, that's gonna be bossy. I'm like, well, where the rap shit? Well, I'm
Yeah.
looking at the Wale solo tracks, and when you hear the Wale solo tracks, it's not there. And so that Gibbs track probably didn't fit. So probably leaked or deluxe.
It'll probably be deluxe. I don't think it's gonna be leaked. Um, Last question about this
Either
album, and
way.
we'll move on. Do you think this album has the potential to crank in the top 5 of album of the year conversation? Where does this
No.
album land?
No, I don't think that.
You don't
I
think
think
that?
King's Disease 2 is better still. AZ's Do or Die 2 is better still.
Hmm.
Hitler Wears Hermes 8. We're going to rate it as a whole because Westside asked that it be rated as a whole. He said he made a post. It's not separate albums, it's one album.
I disagree with that because I'm sorry. If it's put out in 2 separate times,
We're
it's
going to
2
respect
separate
the
albums.
artist's creative licensing. We're going to respect the artist's creative license. If he wouldn't have said it, I would rate it differently. Like I'd be rating Life After Death Volume 1 and 2 differently. I'd be waiting All Eyes on Me Volume 1 and 2 differently. The artist never said anything. They weren't in the format of a times where you could really put that out. He's put it out. He wants it taken as one album. That's actually hurting the rating of B, but overall, still probably one of the 5 best projects this year. Skyzoo's album, All the Brilliant Things, Isaiah Rashad, The House is Burning Down.
I think this is better than Isaiah Rashad's The House is Burning.
I'm going to have to listen to it again to give you that.
Yeah, I think this is better than Isaiah Rashad's. It's really tough again with
production wise
Westside
and
Gunn.
just stylistically. I just love what Isaiah did. Like I said, when I was rating that album, it's like, well, my bias maybe came out with that album more than any other album because it's like, man, well, that's the shit that I want to hear.
Is it better than
From a younger artist coming up? You feel what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Is it better than Tyler's album?
I feel like the bangers on Tyler's album are better than the bangers on this album.
I want to listen to them back to back again. I don't want to be prisoner at the moment, but right now, off the top of my head, the ones that you mentioned, I'm still putting Skyzoo ahead of it. I'm still putting King's Disease 2 ahead of it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else I want to listen to again. I might.
You don't think
I think I'm gonna probably put Do or Die 2 ahead of
about to
it.
say you need to listen to Do or Die 2 again too?
I don't.
And Hitler.
I mean,
Hitler Wears.
I do have to listen to Hitler Wears Hermes 8 again because
Really?
it's just so many songs, man. Like I want to be fair. You know what I'm saying?
No, Mike, but I hear you. But it's like,
yeah, I feel you. I mean, it's
Mike,
just so hard, man. It's hard, man.
Okay, so there's 15 songs on this album, I believe. Like the 8 best songs between side A and B on Hitler Wears Hermes 8 are better than almost everything on this project. So I can't say that.
Okay, all right. So
Like, how about this,
The
Mike?
one I say I do have to listen to again is
Like,
The
Mike,
House is Burning.
right. Okay, no, I give you that, Mike. But is there a track on here that's better than 99 Avarex? Because that's probably like the third
No,
or
no,
fourth best song. You
no.
feel
You're
what I'm
right.
saying?
What about they're bringing up J. Cole's album in here. Shout out to DJ Bruce Almighty. Is it better than?
Mike, I think that's more of a fair comparison and argument. Like,
Okay.
I think Isaiah Rashad, Tyler, J. Cole, and Wale's album. I think we should be stacking those next to each other and looking at them. I think just off the top of my head, I know Nas's album is better. I know AZ's album is better. I know West Side's album is better.
Okay. I know
Yeah, I know those
Skyzoo's
three are
album
better,
is
and I
better.
feel like Skyzoo's album is better too, even though I haven't listened to it in a minute. I'm going to go give that another burn because it's about that time for us to do another burn
I was
on
just about
everything
to say
anyway,
that.
because it's time for us to do the hip hop yearbook again.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
time for us to do this hip hop yearbook, this wrap up. We're gonna put 2021 into one consolidated time capsule, and get it out to the fans. And I know you guys are putting your input in it too, so everybody has a little bit of ownership in this. With that being said, you were about to say something.
No, tell the people that they have ownership because, even when I was doing some of the list and some of the stuff that I was doing last year, I took the input from the comments from the shows about the things that we talked about because we actually did a show where we talked about these things. And I took those comments into heavy consideration when I was comprising stuff and putting things together as far as like lyrics, verses of the year, albums of the year, songs of the year, singles, like all of that, guest appearances. So it's like, no, like feedback here matters. Like we try to listen to like what the collective say as well because we're
Speaking of
usually
which, people are bringing up Donda. I thought Donda was brilliant. Coop
is
thinks
Donda a
Donda's
rap
less than.
album too, Mike? That's what I was.
Yeah, that's the only thing. I'm not sure how much of a rap album Donda is, more so
Because
than
Mike,
a
because if we calling
gospel album.
Donda a rap album, we gotta call Thug's album a rap album too.
That's real.
That's
Even
real.
though I think Donda's is a better album than Thug's album, but yeah, I feel you. Off concept alone, I think Drake's album
Concept,
might not even crack
the
the top
production
10.
not better. Production's
Yeah.
not better on Donda than it is on Thug's album.
I don't know. I don't know. There's a
I
lot of
do.
there's so many things with Donda. I do believe Donda was yanked from Def Jam and put out. I don't know
Mike,
if that was
did
the
you,
finished version. I don't.
Mike, did you see the post about the engineer talking about all the tracks and stuff
Yeah.
and how? Mike, that sounds like slavery.
It's a lot
That's
going
slavery.
on.
That's slavery, Mike.